And when the Sahaba saw this difference, what happened with the Sahaba? The Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'een, when the Tabi'een, there was a bit of disagreement, not on these issues. The disagreement was over the Quran. There's one Sahabi read the Quran to a Tabi'i, he learnt it, and another Tabi'i in another province read the Quran in a different way, and they came together and they said, how dare you say that that's the Quran? Astaghfirullah. Bidah. Haram. He's drawing his sword out. And the other guy's drawing his sword out because they're reading the Quran different ways. What they didn't know is that in Sahih Muslim, again, there's a hadith that when Jibreel came to the Prophet ﷺ, he recited the Quran in 7 different ways. And all of them are accepted. They didn't know this. So they were ready to kill one another over this matter. The Sahaba came rushing to Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, and they said, you must do something about it. And he compiled the Quran in such one writing, that basically in this one writing, you've got all 7 different recitations inside it. And you know what? If I go any further, and if you give me a Quran, please. Yeah. You know what I say to love brothers? I say to them, and please, don't think this is blasphemy. I'll explain, yeah? So don't throw me off this chair. Don't get your tomatoes out, yeah? This, don't quote me yet. This is Bidah. Astaghfirullah. Go on, say it, brothers. Go on, say it. Astaghfirullah. Go on, say it. Go on, label me. Go on. Go forward. Come, brothers. I say to love brothers, they say to me, this is not in hadith. This is not in Quran. And there are certain things, you might not find them, you might trace them up, and you might not find them in hadith. Does that mean that if it's not in the Quran and Sunnah, automatically it becomes unaccepted and bid'ah? Is that the golden rule? In most cases, it is a rule. But in certain cases, you must be careful. Because I can prove to you that some things are not in the Quran and Sunnah, and they are still accepted in our religion. And one of them is this. You're going to say, how is it not in the Quran? This is the Quran. That shay is going to be potty, you know. Listen, my friends. In the Sahaba's time, no one had one book like this. No one had it. It was only Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu that gathered all the pieces. And you know what he said before he gathered it? Listen to it. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was the one who sat next to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and went out to him in every single occasion. There was not a moment when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was absent. Hardly was the case when he was absent. Maybe a few occasions, but hardly was the case. When Umar bin Khattab came to him, this is in which book? Not a weak hadith again, brothers. Sahih al-Bukhari quotes this. When Umar bin Khattab came to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu after the demise of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said to him, he said, "Oh Abu Bakr, you must gather the Quran in one piece, in one book. You must do this." Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, because what happened is in Battle of Yamama, 70 different scholars of the deen died. They became shaheed. It was a massive blow to the Muslim empire. Never before this happened. 70 people who knew how to read the Quran properly with full tajweed. 70 people who knew the whole tafsir of the Quran from end to end. 70 people who had memorized so many hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. 70 of them that were references in the deen. You could go to them and ask anything, they would give you a quotation from the deen. 70 of them that were from the ulul albab, from rasikhina fil ilm. They were the people who had deep understanding. They were given the title of Qurra. Don't think that Qurra means Qarisab. It's not going, yes, they could do that as well. But Qurra in their time meant all of these things I said. 70 of them was a major blow. They had just become shaheed. So then Umar ibn Khattab says to Abu Bakr, he says, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, please gather the Quran, because the pieces, there's different pieces in everyone's house. Gather them into one book, otherwise we will lose our book just as the Christians and the Jews have lost it before us. What does Sayyidina Abu Bakr, who is the closest to the Prophet ﷺ, say? He says, how can I do, and listen to this carefully, how can I do something which is neither in the Quran nor the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam has ordered us to do it? Now you think everything's in the Quran and Sunnah, then why did Abu Bakr say this? And what did Abu Bakr used to do? Whenever he never used to know anything, he used to consult with the Sahaba and say, which one of you knows something on this? There was a whole period of days when the Quran was being collected. No one said, I heard anything from the Prophet ﷺ. Nothing, there was no record of it. And he said, Umar kept on telling me and asking until my heart opened to that which Umar's heart opened to. And then Zayd was summoned. Oh Zayd, come over here. Go around and gather the pieces. He says, how can I do something which is not in the Quran and which is not in the Sunnah? How can I do this? And that to argue with him until they convinced him of this. And then they put the Quran together. And you know why I call this Bidah? Because this is not in the Quran to put it together and not in the Sunnah. And the second reason why I call it Bidah, I tell the brothers, the brother comes to me and says, that's not in the Quran, that's in the Sunnah. I say, you Bidah. He said, me Bidah? You Bidah. I said, how am I Bidah? He said, when you read the Quran, you do Bidah. I said, how? I said, listen to me. The Sahabas, when they put the Quran together, when Uthman put the Quran together, radiallahu anhu, and he put it in such a writing where 7 different dialects can be read. One is ta'lamun and one is ya'lamun. Now you tell me, brothers, ta'lamun, how many dots have you got for ta'lamun? In the ta? 2. At the top or bottom? Top. How many dots have you got for ya'lamun? 2. Top or bottom? You got a problem there, haven't you? You want to collate both of them into one recitation. You've got a choice. You put the 2 dots at the top, they become ta'lamun. You put the 2 dots at the bottom, it becomes ya'lamun. You can't do anything. You can't put 4 dots there. You can't do that. And I asked the brother, where's the dots? He says, it's got to be at the bottom or the top, innit? I said, no, you're wrong, my friend. Bidah. He never used any dots. They had no dots. That's how he was able to compile all 7 into one writing. There was no dots in the Quran, in the Mus'haf of Uthman radiallahu anhu that he made 7 copies of and he sent it to the 7 provinces of the Muslim Empire. There was not a single dot in the entire Quran. So I tell this guy, you bid'ah, when you say ahasi bannas, that's got a ba, it's got a little dot on it. That's bid'ah. And then a further thing from that, you got a fatha, kasra, dhamma. Where did all that come from? Bid'ah. Seriously, you think about this. You think about this carefully. Not everything is in the Quran and Sunnah. We've got certain things in the deen. They've allowed this. Why have they allowed this to be done? Because people later on came to the deen. They found it difficult to read without dots. You tell me to read without dots, I'm going to make loads of mistakes. I tell you to read without the fatha and the dhamma and the kasra, you're going to make several mistakes. That's exactly what happened when the Sahaba saw certain people do this, and the Tabi'in later on, what they did is they started to add these things inside the Quran to make it easy for people to make these things. So my brothers, cut long story short, not everything that you don't find in the Quran Sunnah becomes bid'ah. Be careful in what you say. Yes, there are many things that you don't find that can become bid'ah, but not everything.